Hi everyone, this is going to be a quick demonstration of how to make charts in Adobe Illustrator. I'm here in the program right now and I'm going to start by creating a new document. And I'm going to go ahead and just pick a basic letter size sheet of paper. Depending on what sort of final shape you want, you might want to pick something different, but if you're not sure, this is always a perfectly fine way to get started. You might want to change the color mode to RGB if you know this is going to be for the web. But in general, with Illustrator, it's easy to change those types of settings later, which is a great advantage compared to some other programs. So here I am with a blank page, and the first tool that you're going to go to is over here in your left side toolbar. It's a family of tools indicated by the little arrow in the bottom right hand corner, and if you hold and click, you'll see a number of different tools there. It probably defaulted to the column graph tool if you haven't ever used it before. You can see that there are a lot of different options. I'm going to start with a column graph tool, and then I'll show you how you can easily switch between different types as well. So I'm going to start here by drawing just a big rectangle on my page. And what happens immediately is that this sort of blank default chart template pops up on my page in the background. And then also I have this data window appear. And here's where I can paste in some information that I have already organized in an Excel file. This window in Illustrator is not very user-friendly. It's not great for like changing things around or making, adjusting numbers. So you really want to have things organized well. For example, it doesn't like commas, so you want to make sure that your information is organized and formatted so that it doesn't have commas, it doesn't have percentage signs, stuff like that. So I'm going to use this question that we had, a simple yes, no, and no prediction. I don't want the totals because I'm going to be showing the total in the chart instead, and I'm not going to take the question either. So I'm only going to copy these cells from Illustrator, or from Excel, and now when I go back to Illustrator, I can click on this top square, never click in this, the blue part if you are pasting data in, and you can either use the keyboard shortcut or go up to Edit and Paste, and you'll see that populate these cells. You could go through here and adjust them if you needed to, but hopefully you won't have to. To make this apply, you click this checkmark apply button over here on the right. And you'll see that now my chart immediately shows that information that I had in my data window. This is still a live chart, meaning that if I changed one of these numbers and then again hit the apply button, it would change it automatically for me. There are some other options for graphs. You can go up to Object and Graph to find them, or you can right click on your chart. For example, you can look at the design, which you can change some of where the check marks are. You can make templates. You can also go to Data to get back to your data window, or under the Type panel, you can change things like adding a legend, that sort of thing. You can also change the chart type. So without creating a new chart, I can go back and decide that I want this to be a pie chart instead, for example. And if I click that, I will now have a pie chart. Now that doesn't really look like a pie chart you might recognize, so this is a quirk of the program. If you do a pie chart, pasting it in the way you often have data formatted in an Excel file, going with the labels going down, it expects the labels to go across. So you can click this transpose row column button back in your data window, then hit the check mark, and that will create a more standard pie chart. Now, depending on which one you want, maybe you want them both. I always kind of like saving copies of my charts so I can do different things with them. I'm going to change this one back to a bar chart just for demonstration purposes. And what I have here is all just one chart right now. It's considered one object, and like I said, it's a dynamic live chart. You can change some things about it. You can use the white arrow tool to select different fields. For example, if you wanted to change the color of this bar or take away the black outline. But in general, you can't change too much of it. You'll find that it won't resize like a regular object if you want to change the size of it and that sort of thing. There are ways that you can make adjustments as a live chart, but the more you want to customize, you'll eventually have to go and ungroup your chart. So you can go up to Object and Ungroup. And it gives you this warning. And what this is saying is that once you do this ungrouping task, you can't go back. So you always want to either make a copy of your live chart or make sure that you are completely done with the data and that sort of thing, and you're only adding styles before you get to this part. But you can go ahead and say yes. And now you have it acting more as components the way you would of any other objects in Illustrator. So we can select our scales, we can select our bars, and one thing that's cool about this is that, especially if you ungroup it again, and if you look in your layers panel, you'll see how these are in multiple groups. So here's my pie chart off to the side, and then I have my other groups that are all part of my bar chart here. And since I ungrouped those, you'll see that the bars and the key actually are paired together so that you can change the color at the same time. Not really necessary for a bar chart like this, since you can just move those labels over to their respective bars. But it might be helpful for a pie chart or something else if you really need to have a key. You can also further adjust the size of this if you needed to. You could also rearrange the bars as long as you make sure you keep them proportional, and make any other changes you might need to properly style your chart.